The number one topic of conversation right now that we started 2 years ago, I think, maybe a year and a half ago, is whether or not the NFL season will be extended to a 17-game season. This is going to be the talking point for probably the next, until a deal gets made with the CBA on whether or not this is something that's going to happen. And Greeny on This Morning on Get Up had a bunch of stats about the last time that leagues extended their season another game, okay? I guess the NFL in like 1968 or 1978 moved to a 16-game season. Hasn't been changed since. The MLB, the NHL, it's like these things only happen every half a century whenever you change the season length. So it's a massive ordeal if they were to extend it one game. Then Richard Sherman comes out, and he is a very vocal member of the NFLPA. He is a guy who not only has a big brain, but he has a lot of pull, and he's been around a long time. He comes out and says that the NFL keeps preaching that safety, NFL player safety is a big deal. Now they want to add an extra game to the end of the season. Basically, calling them out on their bluff. Like, hey, do you really care about player safety? You have games on Thursdays. You have games international. Now you want to add an extra game. Is that really that, or is that just one big bluff, right? And I think that's something, or grandstand. I think that's something that is a very good defense. I think that's a very good defense if you're the NFLPA. But I've always said the NFL wants 18 games. The NFLPA wants to stay at 16 games. In any negotiation, you have to scratch their back for them to scratch your back. I just assumed that the 17-game season was going to be what everybody came to agree upon, right? I don't even know if the NFL actually wanted 18 games, if they only wanted 17 games, and that's why they said 18 so they could negotiate down to 17 as if they were a cop that just adds charges on top of things so they can add a plea deal. That's just how negotiation works. Now, what I always said they had to do would be add an extra bye week. So now we got 2 extra weeks of football in the NFL, which as a fan, we're all very excited for. Very, very excited for. As a player, the pros to this would be 2 more checks, either at the current rate that you have or tax them. Make them pay an extra 10% on those payments for the last 2 weeks of the season. Make it a 110% check, 115% check. Now, will that hurt the safety of the players? Yes. I understand that a lot of players have to crawl to the finish line. I understand that a lot of offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, running backs, fullbacks, positions that play a lot more physically tasking positions than I played in the NFL have a lot of problems with their bodies towards the end of the season. I understand that most games on Sundays, guys aren't feeling better until about Thursday, and then maybe even Friday they're back, and then Sunday they're at full speed with Toradol and other stuff. I understand that is not a healthy relationship. I understand that it is not a good thing for a lot of players. But if you look at the playoffs and you look at the way the NFL is going, this is a chance for a lot of people to cash in, including the players. Ratings are going up. Interest in our sport is all the way back at an all-time high, whenever it might have disappeared because of the bad PR. Now, bad PR is the CTE situation. Bad PR is the way that the kneeling was spun by some people. I'm not saying what it was originally for was bad PR, but the way the kneeling during the national anthem got spun by half the country was not good. The narrative for half the country that was ignorant to listening to the other side said, listen, this is disrespectful to the military, this is this. And there was no listening to the other side, just like in our world, by the way. That's why the caucuses probably didn't work, because nobody will listen to anybody anymore. It's not like, hey, we're doing this because we want to make our particular community treated a lot fairly and stuff like that. Instead, it was disrespectful to the military. You can go to hell. We're not going to talk about it. The NFL went into a downward spiral. Now the NFL is back hot. You get more money, more eyes, more weeks of play, and it's going to task the players a little bit more. So obviously, if the NFLPA, you have to ask the NFL for more. We'd like a little bit more of this. We'd like a little bit more of this. But I ultimately think that the 17-game season is going to happen. I think that the 17-game season with an extra bye will end up being a good decision when we talk about it 5-10 years down the road. I think every team has a neutral game. And honestly, I'm excited for it. I'm pumped for it. As a person that has to talk about football, I would like for there to be 2 more weeks of football to talk about. Personally, this might be very selfish of me. But I also think for players, getting more money, a bigger check, and everything like that is good for everybody.